Long before Europeans sailed down the African coast, a vast and powerful network of trade routes already existed. This was the Trans-Saharan Trade. It was a complex system that connected the societies of West Africa with those of North Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe. Imagine, if you will, a great web stretching for thousands of miles across one of the world's most formidable landscapes, the Sahara Desert. This was not an empty wasteland, it was a highway of commerce. This trade was the engine that drove the economies of great African empires for centuries, creating immense wealth and fostering incredible cultural exchange. It was a story written in gold, salt, and the footsteps of countless caravans. The Trans-Saharan Trade was not just a simple exchange of goods, it was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. For centuries, people dared to cross this immense sea of sand, linking different worlds. The trade routes were the arteries through which flowed not only material wealth, but also ideas, religions, and technologies. This exchange fundamentally shaped the societies on both sides of the desert. The kingdoms of West Africa, rich in gold, became legendary. In North Africa, merchants grew wealthy by facilitating this incredible flow of commerce. This ancient network demonstrates that Africa was a continent of powerful, interconnected civilizations long before the 1500s. The key to this entire system was the camel. The introduction of the dromedary camel, often called the ship of the desert, really revolutionized travel across the Sahara. These animals were perfectly adapted to the harsh desert environment. They could carry heavy loads for long distances with very little water, making the once impossible journey across the vast desert a regular, if still dangerous, undertaking. With the camel, caravans could be organized on a massive scale. These caravans, sometimes consisting of thousands of camels, became the lifeblood of the trade, moving goods and people between the shores of the Mediterranean and the heart of West Africa. This trade network was far older than many realize, with its roots stretching back into antiquity. However, it reached its golden age between the 8th and the 16th centuries. During this period, powerful West African empires like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai rose to prominence. Their power and wealth built directly upon their control of the trade routes. They managed the flow of gold northward and controlled the distribution of salt southward. The stories of their immense riches, particularly the legendary wealth of rulers like Mansa Musa of Mali, would eventually reach Europe, creating a myth of Africa as a land of endless gold and fueling a desire to connect with this powerful economic system. The Sahara was not crossed by a single road, but by a network of several major routes. These paths connected specific trading centers in the north with the sources of wealth in the south. One of the most important routes ran from Sijil Massa in modern-day Morocco, cutting through the desert to Tagaza, a key salt mining center, and then continuing south to the great cities of the Niger Bend, like Timbuktu and Gao. Another major artery started further east in Tunis or Tripoli, and traveled south through the oasis city of Ghadames, eventually reaching the Hausa states and the region around Lake Chad. These routes were not marked highways, but were navigated by expert guides who knew the desert intimately. The traders who undertook these perilous journeys were a diverse group of people. In the north, the trade was largely managed by Amazigh or Berber merchants. These groups, such as the Tuareg, were masters of the desert. They knew the locations of oases and the safest paths to travel. They organized and led the great caravans, providing security and logistical expertise. From West Africa, the main participants were merchants known as the Dayula. They were a specialized class of traders who managed the collection of goods like gold and kola nuts from the forest regions and brought them to the market cities on the edge of the desert, where they would meet the caravans from the north. Traveling in a caravan was a massive undertaking, a slow and deliberate procession across a dangerous landscape. A typical journey could take several months to complete. The caravans moved from one oasis to another, these precious sources of water acting as vital rest stops along the way. At these oases, traders could replenish their water supplies, rest their animals, and trade with local populations. The journey was filled with risks, from sandstorms and the scarcity of water to the threat of attacks from bandits. To protect themselves, traders traveled in large numbers, creating mobile communities that offered safety and mutual support during the long and arduous trek across the sand sea. This system was built on a foundation of trust and established relationships. Business was often conducted between families and trading partners who had worked together for generations. Contracts were made, and credit was extended based on reputation and kinship ties. This intricate social network was just as important as the physical routes themselves. It ensured that goods would be delivered, debts would be paid, and disputes would be settled fairly. The traders were not just moving goods, they were maintaining a complex web of social and economic connections that spanned the entire Sahara, binding diverse cultures and peoples together through the shared pursuit of commerce. The two most important commodities in the Trans-Saharan trade were gold and salt. West Africa, particularly the region of the old Ghana and Mali empires, was a major source of gold for the world at that time. This gold was highly sought after in North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East, where it was minted into coins and used for luxury items. The West African rulers controlled the gold trade with great care, becoming incredibly wealthy and powerful as a result. Gold was the engine of the entire system, the precious metal that drew merchants from across the known world to brave the dangers of the Sahara Desert. In exchange for their gold, West Africans desperately needed salt. While gold was plentiful in the south, salt was a rare and essential commodity. In the hot climate of West Africa, people needed salt to preserve their food and to maintain their health. Salt was so valuable that it was sometimes traded for an equal weight in gold. The main sources of salt were in the middle of the Sahara itself, at places like Tagaza, where it was mined in large slabs. These heavy blocks of salt were loaded onto camels and transported south, where they were in constant demand. This exchange of gold for salt formed the primary axis of the Trans-Saharan trade. Beyond gold and salt, a wide variety of other goods moved along these trade routes. From West Africa, the caravans carried ivory, kola nuts, a mild stimulant popular in the Islamic world, animal hides, and enslaved people, who were often captives of war. These goods were traded for products from the north. North African merchants brought manufactured goods such as fine textiles from Europe and North Africa, glassware, ceramics, and beads. They also transported horses, which were highly valued by the cavalry of the West African empires, as well as books and copper, which was another important metal used for art and currency in the south. The flow of these goods created a complex economic system. Different regions specialized in producing certain items, leading to a sophisticated division of labor across a vast area. The forest regions south of the savannah produced the gold and kola nuts. The savannah kingdoms, like Mali and Songhai, acted as the middlemen, managing the trade and providing security. The desert peoples, like the Tuareg, controlled the transport and the salt mines, and the cities of North Africa served as the final link, connecting the Saharan trade to the wider Mediterranean and European markets. It was a dynamic and interdependent economy that enriched all who participated. The Trans-Saharan trade was the driving force behind the rise of magnificent cities in West Africa. These cities were strategically located along the trade routes, often on the edge of the desert or along the Niger River, where they could serve as bustling hubs for the caravans. Cities like Gao, Jenny, and most famously, Timbuktu, grew from small settlements into thriving cosmopolitan centers of wealth and learning. They were the meeting points for traders from different cultures, where goods from all over the world were bought and sold. The rulers of these cities grew rich by taxing the trade that passed through their territories, using the revenue to build large armies and elaborate courts. Timbuktu, in particular, became a legendary city. As a key terminus for the Trans-Saharan caravans, it was a major center for the trade in gold, salt, and books. But it became more than just a market. With wealth came the pursuit of knowledge. Timbuktu developed into a world-renowned center of Islamic scholarship and learning. It was home to the famous Sankore University, which was not a single building but a collection of independent schools. Scholars and students from across the Islamic world flocked to Timbuktu to study subjects like theology, law, mathematics, and astronomy. The city's libraries held hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, making it one of the most important intellectual centers of its time. The economic impact of the trade was transformative for West Africa. It allowed for the consolidation of large and powerful states. The empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai were all built on the wealth generated by controlling the Trans-Saharan trade routes. This wealth allowed them to establish stable governments, fund powerful armies to protect the trade routes, and create sophisticated systems of administration and justice. The trade created a wealthy merchant class in the cities and provided a steady stream of revenue for the state, which was essential for maintaining their power and influence over such a vast region for centuries. Ultimately, the significance of the Trans-Saharan trade before 1500 cannot be overstated. It was the backbone of the West African economy and the primary vehicle for its connection to the wider world. This network did more than just move goods. It facilitated the spread of Islam into West Africa, which had a profound and lasting impact on the region's culture, law, and architecture. It created legendary cities of wealth and learning and supported powerful empires whose fame reached the far corners of the known world. The Trans-Saharan trade is a powerful reminder of Africa's ancient and glorious history as a continent of great economic powerhouses and vibrant cultural exchange.